You're watching Auto Johnny.
Sup, Internet? Well, I'm Auto Johnny, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About. It's where I talk about movies, TV series, the history of their production, along with movie news and comics. Then I break them down to make them easy to follow and give you my personal thoughts. This is a tough one, as today we're talking about Snow White. In particular, the live-action remake of Snow White. And man, oh man, as I teased in everything at D23, I made it no secret that I'm not looking forward to this film. Like, I was gonna cover this next year, but because of the trailer that came out last month, it sort of moved things up a bit and reignited the whole talking issues surrounding this film. Oh, and just to get this out of the way, no, I do not think this film is bad because it's quote-unquote woke. I have other issues with the film, mainly how it spits in the legacy of the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The bottom line is, this video and this channel is apolitical. This is meant to inform and entertain. And yes, we will be covering these controversies, but I will be fair and reasonable while trying to give you my personal thoughts, while throwing in just a little bit of humor, because after all, we're all just here to have fun. I've stalled long enough. Let's talk about Snow White. To see how we got here, we gotta go all the way back to 2016, where the Hollywood Reporter announced that they were doing a live-action remake of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and they were looking to be penned by Aaron Cressida Wilson, who penned an adaptation of The Girl on the Train, and eventually she would accept the job. And we got our first problem. You see, while Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is not actually the first featured animated feature, that will be a French animated film by Emile Colli, which I'm not going to pronounce. It did lay the groundwork for what an animated feature is to this day. Plus, it was a huge gamble. Disney's folly, as it were. In fact, Walt Disney even had to bet his own house on the film's success. So making a remake of this film is probably one of the biggest insults imaginable. And also just downright offensive too. And it also doesn't help it as a whole perception of animation being just for kids. Back to the topic at hand. In 2019, it was announced that Mark Webb would be the director of the remake, followed by Mark Platt, who worked on Mary Poppins Returns, to be the producer. On June 22nd, 2021, actor Rachel Zegler was announced as Snow White, and
Controversy.
God!
Controversy.
Oh, kiss the controversy alarm.
Controversy.
You expect it to go off so
Controversy.
soon. Now, in the original film, Snow White is described as
lips red as the rose, hair black as ebony, skin white as snow.
and the fact that it cast a Colombian American woman, many people were acting really kind of weird about it. And I'll admit, I was a little weird about it too, but if she can deliver a good performance and embody the spirit of the character, I'm sure she will be fine. Right? Right? Back to casting, we got Gal Gadot as the Evil Queen, Ansel Kabia as the Huntsman, and that's it for familiar characters from the original film. And while there's characters like the Magic Mirror and the Dwarves, which we'll come back to, but they are in the film, it's just that their actors haven't been confirmed yet. However, we did get a new character in Jonathan, played by Andrew Bunak. Now, Jonathan is described as a man with plenty of swagger and a twinkle in his eye. Jonathan has turned to Robin Hood-like thievery to provide for himself and his friends. Entranced by Snow White's kindness and courage, he soon finds himself falling in love and following her into battle. So basically, he's kind of like Aladdin, a diamond in the rough type character. What's interesting about him is that he is the male love interest instead of the prince from the original film. And that's because Jonathan is set to replace the prince Now this is one of the main changes to the film, as they said that Snow White is not going to be saved by the prince, and she is not going to be dreaming of true love. She is dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. Which basically means she wants...
I want adventure in the great wide somewhere.
Now this is one of the many comments Rachel Zegler said, which...
Controversy, controversy, controversy.
Thanks. Anyways.
Controversy.
During the actor strike, a lot of Rachel Zegler's comments were unearthed by TikTok, where she said the following.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true.
Which rubbed many people the wrong way. But she is entitled to her own opinion, and frankly this controversy seems a little bit overblown, but I won't lie, it did rub me a little bit the wrong way. Now in preparation for this video, I did rewatch the movie and watch a video essays for context. And yeah, I think the film is still pretty good. The animation is great, whether it's the beautiful landscapes, the rotoscoping, which is a type of animation technique that traces live action actors frame by frame, the transformation of the evil queen to the hag, which, fun fact, is an inspiration for the werewolf transformation in An American Werewolf in London. Now the film's not perfect. I feel that the gags run on a bit too long and it meanders in the middle, and there are a lot of elements that make it feel like it is from the 1930s. But it doesn't ruin the movie, and I'm willing to let these flaws slide because after all, it is a fairy tale, so they deserve some leeway. But what's most important about this film is that it is a very simple story. In fact, Walt cut out a lot of the story just to make it simple, and to add more gags because that was expected for the time. But back to Rachel Zegler, whether you believe her comments are valid or wrong, or whether or not it is blown out of proportion like I personally think, I feel like it's symptomatic of the bigger issue. I feel like nobody really understands what Snow White is. Because she's right, this isn't the 1930s anymore, and I feel trying to modernize it and not engage in the film on this level is you'll end up missing a lot of the nuances of the film, especially one of the biggest nuances of it, mainly Snow White herself. Now look, I will freely admit that Snow White is one of the least interesting Disney princesses. After all, she is the first and is the template, but what makes Snow White a really interesting character is her ability to face adversity with optimism, which is always timeless, and of course her innocence, which could be a blessing, like her being able to make friends with the animals of the forest, the dwarves, and the prince falling in love with her, and that innocence can also inspire the best out of people. After all, it's why the husband didn't kill her, and it's why Grumpy, who was really against Snow White from the beginning, is the first one to go out and try to save her. But also it could be a curse, like her being too trusting, allowing for the evil queen disguised as the old woman to basically give her the poison apple and, well, you know, kill her. Now all this is what makes Snow White more interesting than you realize, and thus trying to change this and not really understanding what this film is, you probably will miss the core of what Snow White is and the film represents as a whole. And judging by the track of these remakes, yes, they will probably miss it. But getting back on track, with casting complete, the filming began in March to July 2022 in Germany, London, and Pinewood Studios. While there was some trouble, like the set catching on fire, which, can't I just say, I'm glad no one got hurt, but man, does that not seem like a bad omen. But anyways, Gal Gadot finished her parts in April of 2022, and we got some leaked images of Rachel Zegler as Snow White. And honestly, I feel like this costume doesn't really work in live action, And then we got...
Controversy, controversy, controversy,
Yeah,
controversy.
I know. It's time to talk about the third controversy, the dwarves. Now, this all started with some comments from Peter Dinklage calling the dwarves offensive stereotypes, which had many people kind of upset, especially the little people's community, who were very vocal about this. And then there were rumblings that Disney were going to remove the dwarves and replace them with quote-unquote magical creatures, but nothing was concrete. Until this image from the Daily Mail just outright confirmed that they weren't going to be using the dwarves, which pissed a lot of people off, as these versions would be known as the bandits. They're like Robin Hood. They would steal from the evil queen to give to the poor. Now, a Disney representative says that they were fake and not part of our production, but later reversed on that, claiming that they were from the set of Snow White, but they weren't official photos. And then a few months later, we got our first look of the dwarves from the film, and it revealed that they were going to be CG instead of actually having actual actors, which still pissed off a lot of people. Funny how trying to prevent a controversy, they ended up creating one. But in all seriousness, they probably were going to do this for a while, so it wasn't really Peter Dinklage's fault. But personally, I felt that removing the dwarves would have been a big mistake, because they are the most iconic part of the film. In fact, I would argue that they are the true heroes of the original movie. And making them CG and not hiring actual little people for these roles is just, man, not a good look. And even the CG is not that great, because during D23 there was actually some leaked footage of a sequence from the film where we saw the dwarves in motion, and man, do they fall in the uncanny valley. Like, Dopey looks like a cross between Alfred E. Newman from Mad and Dewey. Bottom line is, this was just a lose-lose situation, and this is the last controversy of this film, I swear. So with that, let's move on. The visual effects of the movie are going to be done by Moving Motion Picture Company, and the film will include some new songs by songwriters Ben Pajak and Justin Paul, who wrote the songs to La La Land. The film and the logo was announced back at D23 in 2022, and it was set to come out in March 22nd of 2024. But due to the actors and writers strike, the film got delayed to March 21st of 2025. And then this year, we got the teaser trailer, which, by the way, I already covered in my first episode called Everything at D23, so check that video out after watching this one. And after the release of that trailer, it has officially become one of the most disliked trailers on YouTube. Overall, I have very little faith in this movie. In fact, with the live-action remakes waning and diminishing returns each time, I feel like this film might be the final nail in the coffin for these live-action remakes. And if there's anything new that comes out of this film, I will cover this with a follow-up video, along with watching the movie eventually and giving my full thoughts on it, because I doomed myself to this. Plus, I'm going to explain further about my thoughts of the live-action remake sometime in 2025, so look forward to that. But my only comfort is that if this film bombs, it will make people reevaluate and re-examine the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And that's it for Snow White. Let me know what you think of Snow White, and if I missed anything. Like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell for notification. Until then, I'm Otto Johnny, and end transmission.